Sir, made you as a host, sir. You can continue the session, sir.
Yeah, sure, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, hi guys. Good evening. Let's get started for today's session. Let me share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Alrighty. Yeah. So the topic for today. So yesterday, actually, what we saw is authentication. So there are, I told you, right? So there are two major things. One is authentication and authorization. Yesterday we covered what is an authentication, how to uh, how to do login and register things, what is the factors that we need to consider, and much more things. Okay, so it's going to be a continuation of yesterday's concept, because authorization is nothing but once you are authenticated, which is like once you are done with your login. Okay, so next part is we have something called authorization. Okay, so it's a very simple concept, and today's class will be very short. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, yeah. So authorization, authentication. So yesterday we saw authentication. What is an authorization is? So you got logged into the system, okay, but you need to give authorization to certain resources. For example, for accessing your post services like post APIs, okay, so you need certain things to log in into the system. Okay, so basically, if you go to any other public places or park, what you need to have is, so you will get a ticket. Okay, so you will be getting an entry ticket, and you just enter into the amusement park or whatever the things. Okay, so consider an example of an amusement park. Okay, so you get entry ticket, and you need to show your entry ticket whenever it is necessary. For example, if you want to go to any rides in the amusement park, you need to show your entry ticket, and then you will be getting into the system. Okay, so you're getting an entry ticket, right? So that is what your authentication is. So you are successfully authenticated. So then you enter into the park, or you enter into amusement park. So whenever you need it, okay, so suppose you want to access your rights, for example, uh, it can be anything like water rights or whatever. Okay, so you need to show your entry ticket, and then only you are an authorized person, and you are able to access the resources. Okay, the same scenario is here. Okay, so you get logged into the system, and then whenever you want to access certain resources, for example, in our case, the resources are something like your posts. Okay, So in order to access these APIs, okay, you need to show your entry ticket whenever you come to the, whenever you call this API. Okay, so that is what something called token. Okay, so token or ticket, you can consider anything. Okay, so what happens here is, here when you log into the system, okay, so you are successfully logged into the system, and once these conditions are satisfied, you will be sending a message here. Okay, so instead of message, okay, so you will be giving them the entry ticket. Okay, so using this entry ticket, whenever whenever he tries to access any other resources in your APIs, like if he wants to access post API, he need to show the entry ticket whenever he comes to the system. Okay, so that is what authorization is. Okay, so once the logged in, okay, once he logs in, so we need to give him the token. Okay, so that is the purpose of something called JSON web tokens. Okay, so we call it as JWT. So it's a package here. So it's a very popular authentication mechanism. See the weekly downloads here. Okay, so every website will have every server side languages which using Node.js will have JSON web tokens for sure. Okay, so yes, let's see what is a JSON web token, how to generate it. Okay, so I'm going to install npm install JSON web token. Okay, so I'm going to start my application already. Okay, so go here. So I told you, right? So you need to give the entry ticket or token to your user who logs in the system, and whenever he tries to access, he need to show that token, right? So that is what we are going to achieve now. Okay, so once he logs into the system, okay, instead of sending a message, I'm giving instead of sending this message like successful message, I'm going to give him the token or the ticket. Okay, so first thing is I'm going to require my JSON web token, or I can have JWT in short. So require JSON web token. Okay, so there are two things. Okay, so basically JSON web tokens has two things. One is sign and one is verify. Okay, so sign is to generate a ticket, okay, or a token. Okay, so basically from now on we will say it as a token. Okay, so sign is a function given by the JWT package. Okay, using that particular function we will be generating ticket, okay, or token. Same way verify is to, whenever he access the resources later point of time, you need to send the send your token, right? So that is the purpose of verify. Okay, so first let's see how to generate a ticket and give to the user or the token, and then he can access them using that token. Okay, so here a sign is a function. Okay, so basically it's a function. So if you call like JWT dot const token JWT dot, see there is a function called sign. Okay, so using this function we are going to generate a token. Okay, see, first variable is the first parameter is payload. Okay, payload is nothing but, I will tell you. Okay, second thing is a private key. Okay, so what this happens here is, first you need to have a password or a random generated string, okay, for your access token. Okay, so using that particular string only, it is going to generate a token. Same way, using the same string or same password, we will be verifying it in the future. Okay, so that's how it is meant. Okay, so what is a JSON web token is, we will be giving a JSON as an input to this JWT. Okay, and a password. Okay, it will encrypt your JSON using that particular password and give us the token. Okay, so this is what basically the JWT processes, JSON web token. So what is the JSON there? So whenever you generate a token, okay, you need to give your JSON as an input. Okay, so basically the first parameter is JSON and the second parameter is some password. Okay, so here you can mention any JSON object here. Okay, unique, that is unique with your user. For each and every user it should be unique, so that you can understand that whenever he access in the next time, okay, you can understand this user is logging in. You need to know that, right? So that is how you need to have a JSON here. So basically what I'm going to have here is So what is the difference between or the unique between the users? So there is something called ID. Okay, so I told you, right, in our MongoDB, the ID is being generated, okay, which is unique with each and every user. Okay, so why we are having in that way? Because next time when he access the APIs, we need to verify that particular user is logged in. Okay, so here, so for each and every user, there is going to be an ID, like underscore ID. Okay, so I'm going to have that particular ID. Okay, I'm going to give that particular thing as an input, and I'm going to give a password. Okay, so here I already have the user object here, basically here. Okay, so I can have something like user ID. Okay, and user dot underscore ID. Okay, so I am sending a JSON object, something called user ID as a key. Okay, and user dot giving the value as user underscore ID. Okay, so which is nothing but this particular ID. Okay, and so first input is ready. Okay, you can supply anything. Okay, you can supply role or whatever the values that you want. Okay, it is just basically a JavaScript object. It takes as a object or JSON, you can consider anyway. Okay, first parameter is the JSON. Whatever that you supply to that particular function, it is going to encrypt it, okay, using the password that you give here. Okay, so for example, I will give something called GUI 123, something like this. Okay, so this is how we'll be generating a token. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just console my token here. So console.log of token. Okay, so go here. So I'm going to log into the system here. Okay, post, and this is the password that I have. Send it. So see, so this is how a token will be generated. So this is nothing but a entry ticket to your application or to your API. Okay, so whenever he access your post API or whatever the API that you have, okay, he need to send this token as an entry ticket in your headers. Okay, so we'll be sending that particular token in the header. Okay, using that we will be validating whether this user is signed in or not, or this token is signed in or not. Okay, so our token is ready. Okay, so our thing is we just need to pass the token. Okay, simple as that. Okay, simple as that. See, so once successfully logged in, okay, generate JWT, which is something like JSON web token. Send the token. Okay, so send token. Okay, so whenever I log into the system here, it is going to give me an token. Okay, so see here now, I'm going to see what is inside this particular token. Okay, so there is a website called jwt3.io. Okay, so if you go to this website, okay, it is explicitly for your JSON web tokens. Okay, so for example, here I can paste that thing. Okay, so I see it is giving me the data. So I encrypted, right, user ID. Okay, so here user ID and user.id. I mentioned a JSON payload here, right? That will be when it is decrypted, it will be showing it here. User ID and that particular user ID. Okay, so this is IAT is nothing but a time. Okay, so how much time it is going to be present here. Okay, but the thing is, this is what we have supplied. So once you generated your application, if you want to verify your token whether our data is it is generated properly, you can just go to the jwt.io. Okay, so you can just paste your token here, and you can see what is the data that has been inside the token here. Okay, so yes, so now you have generated your ticket, or you can mention it as a token. Okay, so this password, okay, so you can have it in the environment file. Okay, so because in production or in any other environment, we will have a different password to encrypt them. Okay, so we will basically have them here. So for example, token pass. Okay, we can have it in this way, and I'll have this password mentioned there. So GUI at 241 weekday. Okay, So here, how do I need to use something called process.env dot what are the values that we have here. Okay, simple as that already. Yeah. So clear on generating the JSON web tokens. Yes. So because this is a login for it, whenever he gets logged into the system, we'll be getting a new token. Okay. So clear? Can everyone confirm? Clear on generating the token? Alrighty. So now, in addition to these two parameters, okay, so user ID and process.env and other things, okay. So there is second, it takes third parameter as an input, okay. It's something called options, okay. So I will show you options. So see, jwt.site is taking three parameters basically. Your payload. So payload is nothing but whatever the JSON that you want to encrypt. And next is your key, okay, secret, or you can have any name, okay. So you have it as token pass, or you can have like secret, okay. So I will follow the same. So we consider that secret. So secret, okay. So then last thing is it's an option, okay. So what is that particular options takes in? See, so these are all the values that is going to take by your options, okay. So for example, what is the algorithm that you are going to use? Okay, so by default it's HS256, okay. So you need not consider these things, okay. So basically this is the one you need to know, okay. So one thing that you need to consider here is, okay, there is something called expires in, okay. So for example, whenever the user logs in the system, okay, so whenever he log into the system, okay, we'll be generating him the token, okay. So that particular token should have some validity, right? Like 1 day or 8 hours and whatever the thing, okay. If you want to explicitly mention that particular timing, okay, you can mention here. So you can add a value here, okay. So it's an object here, okay, and you can mention your what is that expires in, okay. So if you want to mention some values, see here. So if you want to have 2 days, you can mention it. If you want to have 10 hours, you can mention it here. If you want to have 7 days, you can mention it there, okay. So whatever the thing, okay. So basically we follow it's 8 hours, okay. So a token should be valid for only 8 hours, okay. So then after the 8 hours, he need to log into the system again, okay. So that is the common timing that we usually follow. But in a banking system, we don't. This expiry is very common. If there is no, it will be like just like um, 20 seconds, I mean 20 minutes or 15 minutes, other things. Okay, so it depends on the website. So basically, globally we follow minimum 8 hours. Okay, so using this token, okay, he can access our APIs or the system or the client side or the any other application which is in your front end can access that particular API, okay, using that particular token for 8 hours. So after 8 hours, it will throw you an error like the token has been expired, okay. So it will throw that particular warning, okay. So we just added one more parameter, okay. So that's it, okay. If you want to mention it, you can mention it, okay. So that's not the case here, okay. So now we have given the token, okay. So it is success now, okay. So after logging to the system, okay, so after logging into the system, we are giving him a token, and using this token he is going to access our APIs. For example, so if you want to access our post API, so now he can access the data directly, okay. But now what we need to do is only if the user has the token, he can access this API, okay. So that is what we are going to achieve. The second part, okay. So we have given the token, but we need to place a member who needs to check your token whenever you make an API call, right? So you are going to answer me. So where did we write this logic now? So whenever an API request is coming, I need to verify my token. So where can we write it? Any ideas? Exactly. So it's going to be in the middleware, okay. So I told you on that day, right? So middleware is nothing but these middlewares will be called for each and every request that has been coming from the front end, okay, or the API or the whatever the user used to, okay. So for example, I used an I used a middleware that is going to log your each and every method or URL here. So see, so this log is coming here, right? So whenever I make an API call, this is being called, okay. Same way here, I'm going to create one more middleware, okay, in order to check your token, okay. So check your token, whether the token present or not. It's like verifying a user, okay. So let's see. So for your auth route, okay, we don't need that particular thing, okay. So because using the auth only, he is going to get the token, okay. So we will write that particular middleware here, okay. So app dot use, and I'm going to take that function here, okay. So I'll be getting request response, and usually we'll have next, okay. So here console dot log of request so middleware called. I'll just have this function and directly call the next, okay. So that's what that's what I told you on that day when I took middleware, okay. So we will be checking authorization here. So purpose of this is check token exists, okay. So now let's see. So for each and every API call, for example, if I do this, okay, so go here, middleware called, okay. Same if I do this, it is going to be printing your middleware called, okay. So for each and every request, your middleware will be called. So that's what we saw on that day, okay. Same way here, okay. In this middleware, I'm going to check whether the token is present or not, okay, and the token is valid or not, okay. If the token is not valid, I'll be throwing a message here itself, okay, like after 403 or 401, we can mention here itself, okay, instead of going to the route part here, okay. So we will have multiple routes. We cannot write middleware in each and every route, okay. Instead, we can write our middleware here, okay. So after this, whatever the routes that has here, we can have list of all the routes. So after this only other routes will be called, okay. So if there is a token token exists and if it is valid, okay, we can allow them to access these things, okay. If it is not valid, we will throw the message here itself. So that is what we are going to achieve here, okay. So here I got my token, okay. So I'm going to supply this token, okay. So here in the headers part, okay, I'm going to supply this token, something like I can have access token, okay. So I can send this token, okay. So now for each and every request, I need to send my token in the headers, okay. So we basically have them in the header section here, okay. So access token. So now here I'll print the headers, okay. So request dot headers, okay. So here it's going to print all my headers here, okay. If I send this, see, in my headers, I have something called access token, which I send from the front end, okay. So these are all some things that has been added. So here it is hidden, okay. So these are all something added by default by the Postman, okay. So what is the token that we sent, which is something called access token. So for each and every request, there should be an access token here, okay. So what I do is here, so const token, okay, request dot headers, and I'm going to take that token here. So access token, okay. So I'm just storing it in a variable called token here, okay. So what is the first thing? First, we need to check if the token exists, okay. So if there is a token, so if there is no token, okay, we will be sending. So we have something called result.status, right? So result.status, okay. So what is the code for access denied? It's going to be 401, okay, or 403, okay, dot send, okay, you can send a message or error token is missing. Okay, so you can mention it this way. Okay, so else we can call our next. Okay, so that is the purpose of your token. Okay, see, simple as that. So what we have done here, first we are checking whether we are just copying our token into a variable, so token. So from our headers, because we send it in the request here, right? So request.headers of that particular access token, we will be getting the token stored here. Okay, so if you don't send your token, it is going to throw you 403 or and send like token is missing. Okay, so you can mention like auth token is missing. Okay, else we can allow them to access your APIs. Okay, so let's see. So let's see what happens. So I'm not going to send access token now. See, I'm going removing this. Okay, we send an API request. See, it will deny you 403 forbidden. Okay, so because you haven't supplied your token, error. Okay, suppose if I pass my access token, okay, so now I am getting data. Okay, so that is what we have written into the this particular middleware. Okay, so whether the token exists or not. If I don't send the token, okay, so it is going to throw me an error. So here itself, we are blocking the user to access the APIs. Okay, so from now on, he can't access your post API or whatever the API that you are going to develop in future. He is not going. He cannot access this particular thing here. Okay, so because we have restricted them here itself. Okay, so let's go ahead. Okay, so now what you have checked is whether the token is present or not. Okay, so whatever I pass. Okay, for example, instead of this, if I pass EAS, okay, so it is going to give you data because we have just checked whether the token exists or not. Okay, so now, okay, now we need to check whether this token is a valid token or not. Okay, here we check whether this token is present or not. Okay, here. Okay, now we are going to check whether that particular token is valid or not. Okay, so that's where I told you, right? So there is a function called, I'll just import this. Okay, so here, see, const is valid. Okay, so I will have the const is valid. Okay, JWT dot, there is something called verify. Okay, so verify here. Okay, what happens here is it takes your token as an input. Okay, so again, so whatever the token that is coming, it is going to verify that particular token and your password. Okay, so process dot env dot, so whatever we have here. Okay, so in the login time or login section, what we did, we check whether that particular whenever the user is logged in, okay, we'll generate a token and send it to the response here. Okay, using jwt.sign, it takes 3 parameters. One is your whatever the data that you want to modify, whatever the data that you want to encrypt. Okay, and the second thing is what is the password that you are going to use to encrypt that particular password, particular data. And the third thing is you can mention any options. So the popular option is we use expires in. So like within 8 hours, it is going to expire. Okay, so then we are just sending the token. So now we are getting the token here. Okay, so I told that that particular token should be valid, will be accessible inside here. So for each and every request, you need to supply your token. Okay, so I'm taking the token. Now we need to check whether that particular token is valid or not. Okay, so what you need to do, so there is a function called jwt.verify, and you need to give your token, that is the request coming here, right? So that particular token and the password. Okay, so now is valid is a function. Okay, so we can have something like this. So token, if the token presents and if the jwt.verify, if it is a valid token, okay, we can access that, we can allow them to access. Okay, so if it is not valid, we are going to send it the message. Okay, if it is valid, we are going to allow them to access the APIs. Okay, so see here, now I'm going to send it. What is the API here? So process.env dot. Okay, I need to generate a new token. I changed the password, right? So here, copy this, have it here. Okay, see, now it is allowing me to access the data. Okay, see, suppose if I send anything wrong here, okay, see here, I'm just removing E. Okay, so if I do this, it is going to throw me an error. Okay, invalid token. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll just add some try catch here so that we can send the particular data. So what I'll do is same logic. Okay, I'm just modifying it to here. So if token presence, okay, and okay, so see here now. First, we are checking whether the token exists or not. Okay, if the token is exist, okay, we are moving into this. If the token does not exist, we will throw them an error like auth token is missing. Okay, so now what are you doing here? So we are just verifying the token. Okay, so try const is valid. Okay, so jwt dot verify. Okay, so if this is success, okay, so if this is success, automatically you can call your next function. Okay, if it is not success, okay, it will throw you an error and automatically it will come to the catch part and we are going to send them invalid token. Okay, so see, I'm going to send an invalid token. Okay, it is going to send me invalid token. Okay, same if I use a correct token here. Okay, so use the same token. So I'm going to copy this token. This is an original token. Okay, I'm going to send this. If I do this, it is going to give me the data. Okay, if it is an invalid token, like if I remove this, okay, it is going to throw me an error, EYJ. Okay, so this is how we'll be verifying the token. Okay, so we will basically don't need to store it in a variable. Okay, we can directly verify it. If this particular process success, it is a valid token. Okay, if it is not success, just we are going to just show them the error. Okay, so here, if I send an invalid token, see here now, invalid token. So here it will be throwing an error like JSON web token error, invalid token. If you want to show the message, okay, so you can mention the message as well. So error.message will have the message. Okay, so see now, I'm going to send something randomly, something like this. Okay, so send it. It is going to invalid token, and it will see here. It will clearly say JWT malformed. Okay, which just means your token is a malformed. It is not a valid token at all. Okay, it is throwing an error. See, JWT malformed. Okay, suppose if I copy the same token here. Okay, it will understand whether this is a JSON web token at all. Okay, so now if what I lose, I'll just remove Y alone. Okay, so now see, it is showing invalid token. Okay, so what happens here is if you randomly type something like this, okay, it is not a proper JWT format. Okay, it will your JWT will understand this is not a proper token and it will throw you an error like JWT malformed. Okay, and same way if you mention valid token. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and if you mention a valid token, okay, and just remove just like one variable, or because in the code you might have missed the last line, something like this, right? So I'm removing this 8. Okay, so now it will throw you invalid signature. Okay, and same invalid token. Suppose if I have again 8, okay, so it's going to be a valid one and it is going to give you the data. Okay, suppose if I remove this, okay, and send it, okay, it's going to throw me an invalid token. Okay, so your JWT will understand everything. Okay, so our job is to, if this is success, we are going to allow him to access the APIs. So we are calling the callback function on the day we told you here, right? Okay, the same. So whenever everything is success, like I have a token, and if the token exists, I'm going to verify whether this token is exist or not. So once this is verified, if it is success, we are going to allow them to access the APIs. If it is not success, I'm just printing the message. Okay. So and sending a message something like 401 send like invalid token. Okay. So in the else condition, we'll be showing 403. Okay, 403 is nothing but forbidden. Okay. Suppose if you have something like this in a different token, we'll be showing them like 401 unauthorized. Okay. So yes, this is how we'll be verifying the token, this is the part of your authorization. Okay, clear? You guys have any questions? Clear, everyone? So why am I getting very less response? Clear? Or do you guys have any questions? We have ample amount of time. You can ask me. You said it will be stored in the local storage and browser. How will that take place? Okay, so in your React, okay, so you will have login page. Okay, so what you need to do is, so once the login page is filled, for example, email and password, once you filled, okay, you will be calling this API. Okay, so basically you will be calling this API to get the token. Okay, so you'll be sending the email and password to the system here to this API, and you will be generating the token. Okay, so this token you will be getting in the front end, right, as a response. So you need to store it in a place, okay, where you can access them at any point of time in your website, on your app. Okay, so basically we'll be storing it in the local storage. Okay, so in your local storage we'll be storing this token, and whenever you make an API call to the server, suppose you are making an Axios call to your post API. Okay, so your post API here. Okay, so you need to get the token from your local storage and send it in the request header here. Okay, so that is how in the front end it works. Okay, and based on this you will be getting error message, or you will be getting successful message. You'll be getting data, and using the response that is coming here, you need to add your conditions there and correspondingly show the user. Okay, so for example here, if the user enters the email and password. Okay, so where can I go? Okay, see here now. So I have a sign in button. Okay, so here. Okay, so this is how your website also will be. Okay, so you'll be having a login. Okay, here. Okay, if I type some random email, okay, .com, okay, and give next. Okay, so what you will do in the real time, you will be, this is a form. Okay, so basically you will have a form. You will have some state to it. Okay, and whenever I submit the form, I click on next. What will happen? You need to send this. Okay, so consider there is your email ID and password in the same form. Okay, so when you give on next, what will happen? You will be calling this API. Okay, on your doing an Axios call to this API. Okay, so for example, if I send if there is a not a valid user, suppose something like this, it is going to throw you username or password is incorrect. Okay, so you need to show that message in the UI. For example, if you click on next, okay, so here it is showing you, right, the Microsoft account doesn't exist. Okay, same way I'm sending this message here, right, you can show the same message in the front end as well. Okay, or if it is a successful, so if it is successful, suppose if I have some I don't have any email ID here. Okay, so suppose if you have a proper email ID, okay, or the correct email ID you already registered with Microsoft, what will happen now? you get logged into the system, okay, and you will be getting a token. So this token, so this is what every website will have, okay. So once you log into the system, this token, right, so this token will be stored in the local storage, okay. So if you want to check the local storage, where is the local storage, okay, go here. So you might have learned in the JavaScript itself. So here, so something like your sources console, right? So there is something called application here, okay. So here there will be something called local storage, okay. So here your URL will be coming, your website URL will be coming, okay. And see, so there are some things there, Microsoft, this URL like outlook.office 365. So for this website, these are all the things that are stored in my browser, okay. So you can store anything. So here you will be storing token, okay. Here the key will be your access token and that particular value, okay. So whenever you need this, okay, for example, where is the place that you want to use this token. So for suppose you are making an API call to the server, okay. So I mean with your post API, okay, suppose if you want to send it in the headers, okay, you can just take from the local storage and send it here as a value here from the front end, and correspondingly it will be validated in the back end as well, okay. So this is how normal every website. So you can store it in the local storage, you can store it in the session storage, you can store in the cookies, wherever you want, okay. So if you can see here, so this is login.live.com. So they are storing some values. So see, so every websites will have the same, okay. So this is a token basically, okay. So this is how a real time any website will have, okay. So you need to basically understand here is store your token inside your local storage. So we basically follow two things. One is local storage, or we'll be having it in the cookies, okay. So either ways you can mention it any way, okay. So you know how to access tokens, right? So if you want to store it in the local storage, so you might have learned in the JavaScript. I just want to show you there. So it is an again, it's going to be window object, okay. You just need to store something like this. So local storage dot set item, and you can mention here access token. So you can have a key here, and same way your token here, okay, your value, key and the value, okay. And whenever you want to access them, you can directly call local storage dot get item. So there will be something called get item and your corresponding access, whatever the key that you mentioned here, okay. So that is how we will be storing the data, like using set item, and retrieving the data using get item, okay. In the front end, this is what it will work, okay. So this is how it will work. Okay, so here we use localhost as URL. In real time, we'll have host React app in one domain and node API in another domain. So then make API calls to React to that node domain, or we can use one domain name for both React and node app. Now hosting now for both two different blocks. Yeah, it's up to you. Okay, so it depends on the company. So in some companies they will have APIs hosted in a different server. Your server will be in a different website. On your React application will be in different websites. So there are some websites in that way. Okay, same way, some websites will have both the thing in the same URL. Okay, so they will serve your HTML from the backend itself. Your React application comes from the backend. Yes. In our example, we will have both the we'll have like React in a different website, okay, and your node in a different website. So that's what we saw here, right? So we use something called JSON placeholder. So JSON placeholder, our APIs or our server is going to act like this, okay. So this is what we saw, and our we have our local machine in the React application, okay. We are accessing this website, okay. Same way, what we have done here is instead of doing this, we have our own server ready, okay. So your React application is going to access this API, okay. So that is the only difference between them, okay. So we have just added one more thing called authorization and authentication. So not everyone can access now. So whenever you call post API here, okay. So for example, now here, if we call the local, it is going to throw him an error, okay, because we have added a validation that only the user who registered to this particular website can access your API. Okay, so they will register. Okay, and then whenever they log into the system, we will give them the token. And whenever the token is available, we can store it in the local storage or whatever the thing is. Okay, and whenever you make an API call to the server, you need to fetch the token and store it and send it in the headers part. Okay, so here in your headers part. So we need to make different routes in Node if we host both React and Node under one. Yes, exactly. So after the token gets expired, a new token will be generated after logging again. So how to update the new token in local storage? Yes. So if the token expires, you need to redirect them to the login page. Okay. So then they will log into the system and they will get a new token. So basically, if the token is expired, you need to redirect them to them to the login page itself. So they will give the credentials again, and they will get the new token. And again, you are going to store the token inside. So you have already implemented the logic there. So whenever the login is success, you will be storing it in the local storage. You have done that particular logic. Okay. So whenever you want to make an API call, so if there is a expiry, like it is throwing you an error like token is expired. Okay. So what you can have, you can just redirect to the login page. They will log in again, and again it's going to store the new token in your local storage. Okay. Yes. Okay. So now, okay. So clear everyone. So do you guys have any questions? Can everyone confirm? So this is a critical part of any website. Okay. So any server-side language this is the very basic part of any server-side language. It can be anything. Okay. Authentication and authorization. This is going to be your basic thing. Okay. They will simply ask you in the interview, what is JWT? How can you implement it? Okay. So you can say JWT is a JSON Web Tokens. We use it for authentication and authorization. So whenever you log into the system, we will be giving some token to the user. Using the token only, he is going to access our APIs. And we will be using two functions. One is sign and one is verify. Using the sign function, we are going to generate a token and we need to supply a password to it and password. So don't tell it as a password, it is basically secret. Okay. So same whenever user accessing our API, we need to verify that that is a valid token or not. So you need to verify, we need to use something called a verify function, which is again from the JWT, and we need to supply the token and the our secret. Okay. So if it is success, it is a successful response. If it is not, okay, you can mention you are going to mention that it is an error or 401 or 403. Okay. Yes. So now here you have done everything. Okay. So you just implemented login and we just verified and everything. Okay. So now you need to know who is the user logged in. Okay. So for example, this token, okay, so this token is used by this particular user. Okay. So test@testgui.com. What you have done here, you'll be getting the user from the DB and generated a token. Okay. So now you need to identify who is the user accessing your data, right? For example, in some cases, for example, you have a profile page in your application. Okay. So for example, whenever you click on the profile page, it is going to show you your information. Okay. So based on the user who is logged into the system, we are going to generate him give him the data. Okay. So you need to identify who is that particular user, right? So if you want to know who is that user, just get this response. Okay. So using this user, so the payload that you supplied here, right? So here the JSON that you supplied here, right? Okay. That will be available here in the user part here. So console.log of user. Okay. So if I do this, okay. So now go here. I'm going to make an API call to the post API, send it. Okay. So it's going to be invalid token. I'll generate a new token now and send it over here and send it. Okay. which is giving you data. And see here, the payload that I supplied, right? User ID. Okay, so that will be available for you. Using this user ID, you can fetch data based on that particular user. So we get to know that, okay, so this user is accessing the data. We need to show him only his data. Okay, so only his or her data. Okay, so we need not send all users data. Okay, so in that case, you can use this data here. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll create one more route. Okay, so you will get to understand here. So I'll create something called profile dot routes dot chase. Okay, so here I'll just copy this and have it placed here. Okay, so here I'm going to just have only one thing. Okay, so I just created a route called profile. Okay, so profile routes.js. Okay, my index.js, I'm going to import it. So const profile route require routes dot profile. Okay, so whenever I call app.use, you can mention anywhere. Okay, so I will mention here app.use. So whenever I call my profile route here, okay, and I will be calling profile route here. Okay, so what you need to do is here you have mentioned your route called profile. Okay, so here whenever I call profile route, okay, so whenever I call slash profile, okay, so it is going to give only the data about my user. Okay, so if the use based on the token that I sent here, right? So I'm going to extract this token and send that particular data only for that particular user instead of all the users data. Okay, so that is what we are going to achieve here. Okay, so how to know that? So in the token here, okay, so in the token we just come to know that, so user here, okay, it is going to give you the payload that is mentioned here. Okay, so from this, okay, so from this data, I'm going to take the user ID here. Okay, so I can have import. I will just destructure my user ID. Okay, and have it placed in the request itself. Okay, so request user ID. Okay, if I do this, okay, so after the next function, what is the route? It will be called. It will call this route and this route and corresponding routes. Okay, inside that route, we will be accessing request body, request parents, everything, right? You can access request.user also. Okay, so you come to know that you have the data. So who is the user that is going to log in? I mean, who is the user who logged into the system? Okay, using the token. Okay, so now I'm going to the profile route here. Okay, I'm going to send my user ID directly. Okay, so request.user. Okay, so we need to verify that. We need to verify here, right? You have stored into the request. Okay, so request.user is nothing but the user ID who logged into the system. Okay, so whenever I call slash profile, okay, using whatever the token that you mentioned, okay, corresponding user ID will be coming. Okay, so see here now. So I'm going to make a profile API. So send it. Okay, so I'm missing the token. So I'm going to send this token in my headers. Access token and send this. Okay, see my user ID. Okay, so this is the user I logged in here, right? Test@Groovy. Okay, suppose if I use test1, okay, so test1 and log in. So this is the token for this user. Okay, so if I use that particular access token, okay, so see, so now I'm getting a different response. Okay, so based on the token, okay, we can extract the data from the token itself. Okay, so whatever the payload that you mentioned here in your auth services here, okay, so that's what I told you in the initial stage. Okay, so you need to basically pass or give object or the JSON which is uniquely identifying a particular user. So here we have an ID to uniquely identify a particular user. Okay, so it is enough for us to have that particular thing stored in the JSON web token. Okay, so the more you add to the JSON web load, okay, so the payload, okay, the more the access token length is, okay. So now we have something like this, okay. So like this much of characters. If you add some more properties, your token will get added, okay. So that is how it is going to be, okay. So now what we have done here, whenever we verified it, okay, so jw.verify, okay, if you do this, the payload, the JSON object that you gave when you give the token, right? So here you gave the data, right? That will be directly available in your jw.verify, okay. And I'm just extracting them using user ID, okay, and storing that user ID into my request itself, like request.user equal to user ID, that user ID, okay. So what is the purpose of this? So that all the routes in my application, or all the routes in all the API routes that I mentioned here, okay, when they call request.user, it will be available in this route, and corresponding routes itself, okay. So using that user ID, you can customize now, okay. For example, based on user ID, you can need to send some data. For example, here we have a data called profile. So for example, based on the user who logged into the system, okay, we need to for example, we need to send that profile information alone, okay. So for suppose if the user who logged into the system, okay, so if you want to know this user, you just make an API call, or make a call to the database based on the user ID, get that particular data and send it as a response, okay. So we will do that, okay. So here I'm going to have a service profile dot service dot JS, okay. So I'll just copy this and have it here, and I'm going to use only one route, I mean one function, okay. So here, so from my users collection, find one and that particular ID, okay. So here I will call get user. So here I'm going to call profile service, okay, and here it's going to be again profile service, okay. So in my profile service, so const user equal to void profile service dot get user, and I'm going to pass that user ID, okay. So what I have done here is I just so I just stored my user here, okay. So user ID to my request dot user, I told you, right? So each and every middleware or each and every route will have that particular user if you access them using request dot user. So what I done here, I'm calling profile route here, okay. So whenever I call profile route here, it will come here, and I'm taking the user ID from the request.user, okay. I'm making a DB call to my MongoDB, okay, and getting that particular user information, okay. So here the profile services, okay, the get user is taking an ID and returning MongoDB.collection of users find one, okay. So if we do this, only that particular data will be coming here, okay, and we can send the data directly, something like this, okay. But you should not send it in this way, because your data will have your password as well. You need only name and email ID, okay. So you can use projection here, or I told you, right, the second parameter is, so whatever the data that you want. Suppose if you don't need ID, you can mention 0. Same if you need name, you can mention 1. Same if you need email, you can mention 1, okay. So if you do this, what will happen? The first parameter is your where condition, and second parameter is what is the data that you want to fetch, okay. So only this field, I don't need ID field, I just need name and email field alone, okay. So if you do this, only that particular data will be coming, and you can send the data directly, okay. So now go here and call your profile. So user, that particular information, ID and name and password, so everything is coming. So find one, our condition. Okay, why is it not taking it? There will be a difference in the Node.js. Let's see. Okay, so we'll see in the documentation, okay. But the thing here is, okay, so what I have done here, my profile services, Okay, based on the user, okay, based on the user who logged in, okay, we are just sending that particular data. For example, this is from test one. Okay, suppose if I log in as a test, okay, here, so I'll be getting this token. Okay, so if you access them using this token, okay, so go here and pass in here. Okay, you'll be getting that particular user information, not the different user information. Okay, so this is how your real-time web application will work. Okay, so you will be storing a unique identifier that is going to identify between each and every user. Okay, so what is the data that is common here? Your user id, your underscore id here. Okay, so you can store that id whenever you can generate a token using that particular id. So that's what we stored here. User id is equal to like colon user underscore id. We are just storing this data. If you want to store email id, you can store it. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, so think here this, we will be storing id, and whenever we verify that particular what is that, so whenever you want to get the particular details, okay, particular user details, you will be just using the jdw to verify here. Okay, whatever the payload or whatever the json object that you gave when you generated a token, that data will be coming as a response from this. Okay, so I just stored user id, right? So I just take that user id and store it in my request.user. Okay, so what is the reason? For each and every request, I will be getting I will be having that, I will be getting access to that particular user id. Okay, so in your post also you'll be getting request.user. In your profile also you'll be getting request.user. Okay, so because this same request object is going to apply in each and every routes here, right? Okay, so in a profile route, what I am doing, I'm getting the request object here as well. Okay, so if we call request.user, that particular id I will be coming here, and using that id, okay, I'm making an api call to the server like get user. Okay, so get user, I'm calling this, and by using my find one here. Okay, and getting the particular data and sending it as a response. Okay, so other user information will not be accessible from this without this within this route. Okay, only that particular user who logged into the system will have access to the profile. Okay, clear? Can everyone confirm? So in the meantime, MongoDB find one. So query projection, correct only. So one or true. Okay, so it is correct only. Then I need to supply this value. Okay, so here if you want to access only one data, okay, you need to just send something called protection here and then send the values. So that's how your documentation is. In the case of MongoDB, we directly called these things, right? Okay, but here into supply protection and then that particular value that you want to have. Okay, so if I call API, only name and email will be coming here. Okay, yes. Yeah, do you guys have any other questions on this? So what about voluntary sign out? Okay, so voluntary sign out is nothing but whenever they click on the sign out button, okay, so we'll just clear the local storage. You are storing your token there, right? You just clear the local storage and then automatically you are just going to redirect to the login page. Okay, so if they log into the system, they need to generate a new token. Okay, so that is what going to happen again. Okay, so do you guys have any questions on this? So today we saw what is an authorization, okay, and how to retrieve the data based on the token, and then we can make them happen in each and every route. Okay, so this is how your real-time web application is. Okay, so whatever the company that you go, so this will be a common thing. Okay, so only thing is they will have this logic into a different file. Okay, and they will just mention the particular function here. Okay, other than that, everything is same. Okay, so only thing is they will write a function in a different file and have them accessed. Okay, so then using that user, okay, we can customize the data. So for particular user, you need to show only that particular user data, and using that, how to access those data using the user ID. Okay, you can understand, or you can verify that particular user is logged in or not. Okay, and then who is the user logged in. Okay, using your user ID, just verify it, and it will generate you the, like, destructure your payload, and you will have some details inside it. So whatever that you give in the token generation part, that will be available here, and using that you can store it in request.user, or you can store whatever the value, like request.value or request.profile. Okay, it's up to you. Okay, only thing we are storing in the request is the is nothing but this request will be accessible in each and every route. Okay, so that's why we are storing it in the request.user, meaning that this user is requested. Okay, so that is what request.user is. So this request is from this particular user. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. And now my routes, each and every route will have access to my request.user. Okay, so using this user ID, you can customize your data. You can restrict yours. You can restrict some data. Some one example is you have profile. Okay, so based on that particular user, I'm getting his information. Okay, I'm just making a query here. Okay, so making MongoDB query, getting the user. Okay, based on the token, it will generate you the thing. See here, if I use this token, okay, so this is the token by this particular user. Okay, same way if I use test one, so this is the token that has been given by your test one. Okay, so if I use this token to using the profile, only that particular user information only will be coming. Okay, so that is how your authorization works. Okay, you can use the same in your post service. Okay, so you can based on some conditions. Okay, so yes. If the user in a session is in a session and changing his password, will that affect the current token validation? No, it won't affect. Okay, so what is the reason? Because we are not storing any token here. We are storing, I mean, we are not storing our password here. Okay, we generate a token using our user ID. Okay, so where is that? So we generated using user ID. Okay, so that is not going to affect. But usually what you need to do is, whenever these things happen, one is voluntarily he is signing out. Okay, so the user is signing out, you need to clear the local storage. Okay, same way if he changes the password, we need to clear the local storage and need to make them sign in again. Okay, so if you go any website, okay, once you change your password, they will sign out your session and redirect on the login page. Okay, so what is the reason behind that is it is to overcome the security issues. Okay, so you can use the same token to access your data even after changing the password. Okay, so that is not the case. Okay, so you need to always clear the session storage and redirect them. Okay, so then if the token is an expired or valid, so not a valid token and other things, okay, you just need to clear your local storage and redirect them to the login page. Okay, so everything is going to act in the local storage or session storage, whatever you have. Okay, you need to automatically, you just clear them. It will directly, you just add a condition that if there is no a token present in the local storage, redirect them to the login page. Just have them as a simple logic in the React application. It is going to work as expected. Okay, so that is the thing. So what are all the questions? So how do we prevent a user from signing in multiple times? If he already in session, example, prevent him from signing in two computers at same time. Okay, so in order to implement this, it will be a bit complex. Okay, but I'll say. So once the user is logged in, okay, so you need to make an entry in your MongoDB. Okay, so for example, you will have one more object here like logged in. Okay, so you can have one more property called logged in. Okay, if the user is signed in from one system, okay, you give the value as true. Okay, So then if he tries to access your sign in again, okay, so you can just check the value here, right? Okay, so it's already true. You should deny them to sign in there. Okay, so you can send that message there directly. Okay, so this is a simple solution that we usually follow. Okay, so clear on the answer. So what you need to have here is just have we have flag here. So we have name, email ID, and password. Have one more flag like logged in. Okay, so whenever the user logged into one system, okay, you just update your data with something called true. What it means is the user is already logged into some other system. Okay, so again, if he tries to log in from different system, okay, check the value in the database. Okay, if it is already logged in, okay, just throw them an error that you have already an active session. Okay, so once the user logged out or he left out of the website, or the session is invalid or whatever the thing, okay, again make them to false here. Okay, so that is one more logic that you need to apply. Okay, so one simple solution is this: you just need to store it in the database. Yes. So because of token, we can't open two accounts of any particular website in the same browser. Because of token, we can't open two accounts of any particular. Yes, exactly. So that is why you cannot have multiple logins. So if you use, there are some complex implementation. Okay, so if you go to your Gmail, okay, it will allow you to sign in multiple times. Okay, I mean multiple accounts. Okay, what will they do is they will have access token like access token 1, access token 2, access token 3 in that way. Okay, so they will store access token in the local storage in that way. Okay, so using that they will take a particular user session. Okay, so in that case also you can do it. Okay, but usual website will have only one login. Okay, so some famous websites or some popular websites like Google and other things has implemented multiple login. Okay, but 99.9% of website will have only one user logged in at one at a time. So if you log in as a different user again, your local storage will be clear. Okay, so it will store only one token. So automatically that particular user session will be created. Yes. So do you guys have any other questions? So this is all about your authorization. Okay, and your last session in your Node.js. Okay. Yeah. So if you have any questions, you can ask me, or you can wind up the session. So I'll share you all the code here, okay, in one zip file. So you can see it, okay. Please don't copy it, okay. So just see it and start coding from scratch, okay. Then only you can understand what is the concept behind each and everything, okay. So we covered most of the things here. What will be the class timing tomorrow? I'm not sure about that. Okay, so your Node.js sessions are completed. Okay, so you're complete. So the next step would be, I think there would be like a mock interview, but I'm not sure about that. So your student coordinator or in the Zen portal, there will be a schedule. Okay, so I am not sure that there will be a session tomorrow. Mostly it would be like they will be handling interviews. So that's what it is going to happen. So once the interview is done, they'll move to the next level of sessions. I think like AWS or whatever the thing. Yeah, go ahead, Priyadashni. You can share your screen.
Hello. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Please?
Hello, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Here I used JSON API. I can do everything in here. If I delete, it will be delete. If I update new value, it will update like.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Will update. See. If I change my API. Yeah, if we change my API, it's loading.
Okay, can you access that API? So in your Postman.
Yes, sir. I have this
Okay,
data.
now.
If
Okay.
I add new data like this, it will show only button. It only will show data is not displayed.
Okay, so what happens here is whenever
If I
you
refresh,
create,
it will. Oh,
so after saving, it is coming in this way.
yes.
Refresh. Okay, so
Yeah.
you need to check the response. So after creating the after you submit your function, I mean submitting your API or making a post API, what is the response that you are getting?
In Postman, I get. It will work in this application, Postman application. It won't work in my.
No. Make a post API in your in your Postman. Yeah, go to the body section. Okay, now send it.
Yeah, sir. Right.
So this is JSON placeholder. Use localhost 3000.
Okay, sir.
If the same response is coming in the local host also, then it will work as expected. Now send it. So have the post API here. So send it. So you're not getting the data, right? So that's why it's blank.
Okay.
So you need to send that inserted data also here. Okay. So I told you when created an API, right? So we'll be getting this response from the MongoDB. Okay. So then after the insertion, you need to make an API, I mean, call to the using this ID, you need to make an call to the MongoDB and get the particular user information. I mean, particular
Okay,
post
sir.
information, and then it will work as expected.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. So I will share you these things. And I need to share you the code, right? So desktop node packet.json routes share. So node. Okay. I have shared you the code as well. Yeah, so that's it for today, and your Node.js and React and database part is completed, and this is my last session. So maybe like another mentor may be coming for next levels. Okay, yeah, so there will be a session. I mean, there will be a mock interview basically. So I may come, I'm not sure. Okay, so yes, yeah, I'll share you the things here. So So Node.js. So that's 241. This is going to be so here is the topics that we covered, and then what else? React zip. Let me check if I have it. Okay, so this is your React zip. So I have multiple things in React. Okay, I will share you 3 things. So there will be 3 zip files for your React. Source.zip, I will have 3 things. And I have shared you the node. Yes. Yeah. And what else I have? Yeah. So please try out these things and come up with your own app. Okay. And have them. So if it will be good if you showcase your website in the interview. Okay, so you can share them the URL. Your interview may ask some questions, so do those things in the real-time interview. Okay, so it will gain you extra bonus points in the interview. Okay, so they will prefer you because you have some experience in working on that. So please do this. And yes, if you need, so someone asked me my contact. You can reach me out in this email ID. Okay, I will try to answer if you have any questions. Yes. Yeah. So all the best. Do well. And this is the key part of your Zen classes. Okay, React, Node, and database, JavaScript, HTML, and your key part is done. Okay, so for your interviews, your upcoming interviews, everything will be from this topics only. Okay, so please be clear on those. And if you have any questions, just go over the videos. Okay, so we have covered most of the topics. Okay, so yes, if you have anything, okay, so reach me out in that email ID, both professional on personal way. Okay, yeah, thank you.